my man said, you know what? I'm tired of this crib. I'm tired of this church. I'm out. Jumps out the crib and like fell on the floor. And I hear like this big thud. And like I run upstairs.
He's crying.
I am crying. I just know I'm going to jail because our son has died. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Growing in Love podcast. That sounded real cool, didn't it?
Very legit, very official.
It sounded like loud, but like, okay, you're excited.
You are.
What's good, people? Welcome back to the Growing in Love podcast. We are your hosts.
I'm Brea Smith.
Austin Smith, the Smith gang, Smitty gang.
Yeah.
The Smithertons.
It's real hype. And it's too late.
Smithtopia.
Oh my goodness. Yes, this is episode 5 of the Growing in Love podcast.
Epi 5.
In this episode, we're going to be talking about navigating parenthood.
Lord Jesus.
Okay. That's
My
a real
God.
hood.
The real hood.
Listen, the realist.
Listen.
But before we get into that, we're going to be talking about what are you growing through this week? We ask that question at the beginning of every episode. So what are you growing through this week?
Not coughing.
Yeah.
That's fine. Let's see. What am I growing through? I think right now, I know I'm wanting to grow in my speaking career.
Mm-hmm.
So that means two things. One, being more clear and specific, not Pacific like ocean, specific. Clarifying.
Let the people know that you're educated.
I was probably, sometimes I say words and it sound like whatever. Anyways.
I know, me too.
But being just more clear on the lane that I want to speak to and cater to.
Mm-hmm.
Just getting outside of church. Not saying I won't preach anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely not saying that. But I've noticed this year with different engagements, especially like with sports,
Mm-hmm.
that there's a grace that God's given to me to minister to athletes
Mm-hmm.
and college students.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always have to be through preaching.
Mm-hmm.
But, I've just been thinking, like, there's some things I want to work through and, like, kind of cultivate to help that college age, like, athlete and student, but also some professional athletes. I want to help them to thrive.
I love that.
Off the court, off the field, in and out the classroom. So I'm working through some things on that. So that's one part. The other part is being confident in, as I'm growing in my speaking career, that I'm confident in stating my price and being okay with my price.
Yeah.
And I think that's something
good.
that all creatives or people who have a business in general, I think that's something that we struggle with because everyone can see the value in your work except for you.
Yep.
And for me, I thank God for the opportunities. I thank God, and I hope this doesn't come off wrong. But when you first start off, getting blessed with a gift card is cool. Like, because it's like I'm glad to get the opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
I got a family now.
Yeah.
You feel me? Like, and not saying like recent engagements have been like that. I'm just saying in general, like
Right.
Since I've been preaching since 2014, 2013.
Yeah.
So almost 10 years or just speaking.
Mm-hmm.
So what sufficed in one season when I first started doesn't suffice now.
Yeah.
And being okay with it. If this is going to be something that grows
Yeah.
and provides substantial income outside of just what I do on a daily basis in my 9 to 5. So yeah, I think that's something I'm going through this week.
Pay you what you're worth.
Amen.
Amen.
You look good.
What am I growing? Thank you.
Look real good.
What am I growing through this week?
You not fooling me?
I
Getting distracted. Your neck getting hot.
I can't.
Okay.
What am I growing through this week? I think for me, I gotta stay on topic because I will lose my thought in a whole minute.
Excuse me. I'm sorry.
What you want to say?
I said sorry because I didn't mean to burp.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So what am I going through this week? So one of our goals for 2024 is to be debt free. That
Come
is
on.
something that I am expecting in 2024. But
Completely.
yes. But what I'm growing through is not having to spend money every time I go into Target.
Gee, Lord, I feel you on this one.
I just need God to grace me as a window shopper
I
because
feel God.
listen, if you want to be debt free, sometimes you just have to do things that other people are not doing. Social media may have made influencing viral, but sometimes you got to make debt free viral. Okay? What do you value for your life? And for my life, I value being debt free. I value having financial freedom for my family. So there's some things that I don't need, right? And so I am learning how to grow through just not having to spend money when it's unnecessary. You don't need that.
Put it back.
You don't need another bag. You don't need another hat.
Oh,
You
wow.
don't need.
Wait, this turned quickly. I thought this was what you're growing through.
It is. But I was just speaking like in general. But I saw your hat. I'm on a peripheral vision. I'm speaking to the people. You're just inspiring me because you're right here. Anyways, yeah, that's what I'm going through this week. Hopefully that will be relatable to you. We have just left out of Christmas season, so you don't need anything. If you didn't get it on Christmas, you don't need it.
You know what's crazy though? During Christmas, like this pressure, like consumerism, where it's just like, I mean, it's a beautiful setup. Music be playing. You know, Mariah Carey, she starts singing literally after you eat that last plate on Thanksgiving.
Listen,
She be ready to start warming up. Oh, Jesus. Okay.
That's what she's saying.
Mm-hmm.
That's what she's saying.
I would try to hit that note, but I'd probably sound like an elephant that got hit by a car.
Oh, Lord, you got to know what you're gifted in. You got to know your strengths and know your weaknesses.
You know what's crazy, though? Like, Brea can really sing. But she be playing. Why are you shaking your head? So you can't sing?
I mean,
okay,
a little bit.
You know people who can sing be like trying to play like they can't sing. Kind of like Nigeria too. Nigeria
can sing. Yeah, she in the bag.
Okay.
She knows she can sing.
I'm growing through not being petty. How about that?
Yes, he is.
Hey, man.
Pastor Petty. That's what they used to call him, Pastor Petty.
You play so bad.
Anywho.
What it do?
So, like I said, we are talking about parenthood in this episode. And if you do not know, we have two children. So we have a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old. Our 2-year-old's name is Aiden. Our 5-year-old's name is Bryce.
Mm-hmm.
Parenthood, I know for me as a mother, has taught me a lot. Okay. Our last episode was about expectations, but I think within marriage and parenthood, there are just things that you will never truly understand until you walk in the shoes of someone who is in that role. Absolutely. Right? Until you become a mother, until you become a father, you will never truly understand what it feels like to be a mother and a father.
Yeah.
Right? Until you become married, you will never understand what it was like to be married and have to go through marriage. Mm-hmm. So parenthood within itself it's been the one thing besides marriage that has truly changed my life completely. You know how people say like everything changes after parenthood, and that is like the cliche thing to say. Yeah. But it's not. It's real.
Oh, it's real.
Everything has changed after marriage. When I think about just one thing that has changed when it comes to parenthood, a lot of times people will say, I think it's trendy to say the negatives. Mm-hmm. I don't even think they're negatives. I think it's just things that maybe people don't think about when it comes to parenthood. But in a positive way, I feel like lately God has just been showing me the privilege of being a mother. Like not everybody gets to be a mom, and it is such a privilege to be a mother. And I'm truly understanding now how much purpose is in motherhood. And for a lot of time being a mother, I remember in the beginning stages of motherhood, I used to feel like, oh my gosh, everything has changed. I have to figure out who I am again. And the thing about it is that when it comes to being a mother, so much changes, but it's not really figuring out who you once was, but being okay with the new version of yourself, because you are truly a new person after becoming a mother. And I love my kids so much, and having the responsibility of raising two Black men in today's world, it was a little scary at first, especially since, like, I had Bryce in 2018, 2019.
Yep.
But having Aiden during the pandemic was something that nobody could have been prepared for. So I had him March in 2021, but I got pregnant during the pandemic, and that was really scary because nobody knew what was going on. I really had to trust God with that whole entire process, and especially with Bryce too. I think with so many roles that you were given and you're blessed with, it's relying on God to be able to do those things. Like, you can be a great person, but you have to allow grace to be able to just lead you in those roles, because you're not going to know what to do. You've never been a mother. He's never been a father. So I've had to give him grace throughout being a father, but I've had to give myself grace as well. Especially when it comes to comparing yourself to other mothers, like the Instagram moms, the TikTok moms who feel like they always have enough energy to cook the meal, have a clean house, make sure that their kids are, they're gentle parenting and that they're not losing their temper every time. And I think when you put that type of pressure on yourself, you don't allow room for God to work in you and to teach you how to operate in that role, because you're always comparing yourself to other people. You don't know what goes on behind the scenes, what they have to deal with on a daily basis, and you're only seeing a snippet of their lives. So I know for me, especially just being a mother, I've had to give myself grace throughout every phase. Because in motherhood and with their children, they're always going through different phases. So you can become an expert at having a 1-month-old, and then they turn 2 months, and they're in a completely different phase. And now you're going to have to learn how to operate with this 2-month-old who's now, trying to learn how to keep their head up. And then that 3 months old and 4 months old, and now they're crawling, and, it's just so many different phases. Yeah. And you really have to receive help.
Yep. Yeah.
Receive help, which was really hard for me, because I felt like, listen, I should know how to do this. I'm a mom. God has, blessed me as a mom. But he's also given you a village to be able to help you.
Yeah. No, that's good. I think, man, for me, first, just thinking about, like, when I found out you were pregnant with Bryce, I'm not going to lie, like, I think there's a level of, like, fear of becoming a dad, like, mixed with excitement. It's like a plethora of emotions, right? Because, it's a part of the quote unquote American dream. Like, you get married, you have kids, then you get the house, and and then there's nothing wrong with that, right? But there's not a book to teach you really how to do this. Like, of course, people can say, excuse me. People can say, oh, yeah, you read the Bible. Okay, super save people. But I'm saying, like, on a daily basis, like, navigating through, like, the newness of, like, being a dad.
Yeah.
And, I think for us, especially, like, for me, like, with Bryce, I'm trying to just go back. That was, like, around the time, honestly, like, 2019 was, like, one of the hardest years of my life. I dealt with, like, job loss. I dealt with a lot of hits to my confidence. It was a lot of, like, one thing after another, and to navigate through that, excuse me, while having to lead, like, a family and have, like, a newborn, like, that was, like, 2 collision courses, like, at the same time. And I remember before Bryce was born, I remember, man, like, writing this list out. And I'm always, like, writing list of, like, what I'm believing God for. And this particular list, like, I wanted to, like, really spend time with my son. Like, I remember that. And it's funny because, like, God will answer your prayers, just not in the way that you want him to answer them. Right. So like my prayer was like to spend time and get like quality time with my son. Mm-hmm. And the way he answered that was me losing my job.
And you had all the time.
And I had all the time. And, you know, one thing that season taught me was learning how to be a dad while watching my son be a son. And like equating that with like my relationship with God, mm-hmm. and that dependency that Bryce had on me, and still has. But like in that season, there's so many things that he would teach me, like mm-hmm. just from like watching him. And you know, you were joking like, you know, you're scared that like when they're first born. I remember when Bryce was first born, just like that day was just, it was just so much going on.
First of all, you watched the entire birth.
Yeah, I did.
Which I was very surprised about, because not a lot of men will watch the entire birth process, but you did.
I did for
you
both
didn't
of
pass
them.
Out.
We'll, when we get to Aiden, we'll have to talk about like that story, because I was ready to.
Oh yeah,
y'all seen Denzel Washington on Man on Fire?
Oh my goodness. But you need someone who will advocate for you. Yeah. And when I tell you, especially as Black women, as a Black woman, when I tell you my husband advocated for me in the hospital, he scared of nurses a little bit.
I was not playing with that hospital.
Simmer down.
I said we will own this hospital.
I cannot.
This hospital will be named Smith Hospital. Keep playing with me. Get the doctor now. I'm getting mad thinking about that. All right, sorry. But going back to Bryce, when Bryce was born, like just that day was like a day that you never forget. Mm-hmm. You know, the cool thing was like our family was able to be there.
Yeah.
It was funny, like trying to get our parents out, like especially our moms. They were just,
yeah.
Our moms are doing the most, but rightfully so. But I remember just holding him, and it was like, yo, this is real. Like this is my son. Like this is like
felt so warm.
He felt so warm, and I remember like holding him, and I was so scared because I didn't want like anything to happen to him, mm-hmm. and like his neck, had like got out my elbow and like fell, and everybody's like, oh, and I was like I was so scared, but that moment like kind of like,
it's funny because he said everybody said, huh. It was nobody in there but him.
No. When my dad, like when my parents got in the room.
Oh, okay, that happened again.
Yeah. But just like that moment for me, like that kind of, oh my gosh, that mm-hmm. kind of symbolizes how I felt like before. Mm-hmm. Like I've never done this before.
Right.
So what does this look like? And you know, we talked about one of our episodes about like feeling like you had to prove yourself.
Yeah.
Like when you first. Just in general sometimes, but then like proving yourself in marriage. Mm-hmm. But then now, like again, what you don't deal with in one aspect of your life in singleness, mm-hmm. or just in another season, it will translate into other areas of your life or other seasons.
Yeah.
If you don't deal with it, and like feeling like I had to. There's this pressure now, like I have to like prove that I can do this. Like I can lead us, you know. Mm-hmm. So like when I lost my job, and it's like, oh shoot, I don't have like any, you know what I'm saying? It was just so much going on.
Yeah.
But even though that was one of the hardest seasons, it taught me again like the power of like truly trusting God.
Yes.
Depending on Him, and there were so many lessons, and just like, you know, I don't know, man. It was just like a season that like in the midst of it, I hated it. But like, and not saying I hated like having a child. Please don't hear that. I'm talking about like just everything that was going on. It was just so much. But looking back, like it made me better.
Yeah.
It made me better.
And it was great quality time to spend with Bryce, because I feel like before that he was like always with me. I was working from home at that time, and then I had to go back into work. And so it was kind of like, you know, when your child is so small, they're breastfeeding, they're always with their mommy, and now they're like, oh, hey dad, like
can't help you on that,
let's
bro.
get to know you too.
Can't help you on that. Here's this bottle. But yeah, like that's real. I think there was something I was gonna ask you when it came to. Did you mention like what you what you were expecting? Cause like before we had like Bryce and everything, like
What was I expecting out of like having children?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I talked about that at the beginning, but I think I don't know. I think a lot of times as mothers, you just feel like you're just going to get it, right? Because you're like, okay, if God has graced me to be a mother, this is just something that is going to come so naturally to me. And although I felt like it did, there were still so many things that I still felt like I didn't know because, of course, this is my first child. So there was so much more I had to depend on God for, like, even especially as they get older, I'm like, okay, well, how do I discipline them? I don't want to be too soft and be a pushover as a mother, but I also don't want to discipline them so much that they are fearful of me. And I want to always remember that at the end of the day, they are children. I cannot parent my 1-year-old like he's 5 because at the end of the day, he's 1. I can't parent my 2-year-old like he's, 7 months because he's 2. So learning the different phases, being aware of that, doing research on their development, all seems to pick on me all the time because I'm always doing research on their developmental stages. But I think that is important because when you have a child, you need to know what's normal, right? Like I was watching something today and it was saying that it's normal for a 2-year-old to hit at this stage right now because they don't know how to control their impulses. So it is an impulse for them to hit. But now if you look at your 2-year-old and you're just like, oh, like, we got to stop you to do this right now. Like, you're hitting. I can't believe you're doing this. But you're not understanding that, hey, this is actually a very common, normal developmental stage for a 2-year-old. Then you will think that there's something wrong when they're really just trying to act out what they're feeling right now. Does it mean that you continue to let them hit? No, you approach it in a healthy way. But I think that's one of the things that it's just a process. Like I'm always constantly, continually growing through that. How much screen time do they get? And not comparing myself to any other mom that I see, because there's some moms who are like, oh yeah, your kids can't have any screen time until the weekends, right? They have no screen time until the weekends, and then sometimes I'll feel guilty because I'm like, oh well, I had to clean today, so they were on their tablets, or there's so much pressure when it comes to being a mother and just wanting to parent well. But I've had to learn not to compare myself to other people and allow God to lead me as a mother, and trust my instincts as well, because there's certain things that in your gut you just know, like, hey, this feels right. Right. And you also know how you were once parented as well. There's certain things that I don't want my kids to go through or to have trauma connected to, because of something that happened when I was little or when I was younger. So there's more things that I'm more aware now because, I'm a parent. So yeah, I would say those are probably the things that I'm just growing through.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. So it's interesting because it's like, it's one thing to have like one child.
Yeah, 2.
And then the parent, just like one. Mm-hmm. But then like when you have 2 children, it's like a whole different dynamic. Real. And then, everybody keeps asking like, y'all gonna have a girl? No. Where's the camera?
Well, you don't know that. You don't know that, babe. You have to be open to whatever God is wanting to do. But I get it. I think that there's a lot that comes with children. Look at his face. He don't even want to talk no more. He's like, episode over.
You do a solo pod.
Every time I say that, he gets so upset. I'm like, you really don't know that. Please stop limiting God on what he's able to do. What if he wants to do something different? You can't just say, I don't want another. Like, there's just no more. How do you know that? If God tells you to have another child tomorrow, what you gonna say? No, God.
I mean, obviously, I'm a square up with God. Yeah, see me on these ones.
Okay, then you have to be.
God blinking, I just died. but my point is, they don't snap.
He doesn't want one. Well, he doesn't want another one.
Here's the thing, man. Like when you have 2, like we have like a rhythm. Like it's already like.
Let me just tell you. And one thing that kids will teach you is patience. Okay, kids will teach you patience. If you did not have patience before kids, they will teach you all the patience in the world.
So you want another lesson? What you mean? And that's the thing, like.
But see, I, as a mom, or just the type of person I am very patient, right? I'm just patient, a naturally patient person in general. That is something my husband is going through. He's going through patience.
Oh, because, okay.
You are. You were all going through patience. But is that a big part of why you don't want another child?
Professor Patience over here. No.
I didn't say that. I said we're all growing through patience, but isn't that something that you're going through? Be real with people now. We talk about being transparent. Is that something that you're going through?
I am growing through.
Okay.
My thing is, I don't know if it has to do with patience. I just.
You said you want another lesson. That's what you asked me.
Yeah, and then you asked me, is that why I don't want another child? I was like, no. I think a part of my preference not having another minion in this house is because as a man, and this is just maybe how like God has designed men, or maybe how He's designed me. I'm thinking like, okay, we have another child. We're gonna have to move. We're gonna have to do this. I'm gonna have to increase on my finances. Like I'm thinking about I'm, you know what I'm saying? Because
yeah, I think about that too.
Well, my responsibility is to like take care of my home.
Yes.
And I never want to be in a position. Now, again, to your point, like I have to, something I'm growing through is not trying to control what is necessarily, how can I say this? Like, help me say this. Not to control like what or limit what God can do. Mm-hmm. So like to say, all right, well, if we have another child, then I'm going to need more money. Well, what's that to God, right?
That's me.
So I hear you. And I don't want another child.
I know. That's what it is. That at the core, you don't want another child. For me?
Here's the thing.
What?
If we had a girl, I know I would be a weepy mess. Okay. I would be a puddle.
That's what it really is.
And I honestly don't know I don't know what type of dad I would be with a girl. Like that scares me to even like think about. And I know our boys right now, like to have a girl in the family.
Yeah, so let me tell you what type of parent we are right now, okay? If the boys fall, I'm like, but you didn't die. Austin.
Man, listen.
Will cry. It probably doesn't even seem like these are not our personalities. Austin will cry. He will be very shaken up.
Story time.
I'm like, they did not die.
Story time.
They're still alive. They're boys.
When Bryce was born, this was like when he was like 6 months or so.
6 months, yes.
My man said, you know what? I'm tired of this crib. I'm tired of this church. I'm out. Jumps out the crib and like fell on the floor. And I hear like this big thud. And like I run upstairs.
He's crying.
I am crying. I just know I'm going to jail because our son has died. Like I was so scared.
So scared. He's like, oh my God. He's like talking to Bryce like he knows what he's doing. I'm like, the child is fine. The only person crying is you.
Because here's the thing. A part of the, like, I told you about the fear of fatherhood.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like.
You sound like you're about to cry.
I'm not about to cry.
It's just your voice.
It's my voice. Because, like, you know, when, like, you talk to other parents and they be talking about, like, when your child's taking a nap and you be doing the test to make sure they're still breathing, like, or you be like.
That wasn't you because you were never up when they were asleep, when they got up.
Oh my goodness! just stab me in my chest. I'm not talking about like, yeah, I wasn't up at night with you. I know. Do we need to have a counseling session?
Therapy 101.
Tell me how you feel. Go ahead. I was talking about like when you were at work.
I'm sorry, I just had to remind you.
When you were at work and I was home with him and he would take naps. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
Like
I'm sorry.
I felt some type of way just now.
You don't have to prove yourself.
You like really can't.
You don't have to prove yourself.
Let me tell y'all something. When was this? Was that like a couple of days ago? When I say this woman was coming for my neck so many occasions, it was like the first time it was like, okay. The second time I was like, oh, okay, that's funny. The third time I was just like, yo, what did I do to you? And obviously there's still something that I've done to you. So after this episode, we can
Right.
we can reconcile.
Okay.
But my point was just like that.
Reconcile.
That
Is that code word for something else?
whatever you want that to mean.
Okay. Anyways. Mm-hmm.
The point I've been trying to make for the last 3 minutes was, Lord,
I don't even know.
I done forgot my point because you out here playing games. What was I talking about?
You were talking about how you were that parent.
Yes.
Which is sometimes very fearful of what's going to happen to them.
Yeah.
Yes. And I get that. I have that fear too, but not as much as you.
You laughing and crying.
I don't know. I don't know. I think
I think that fear comes from just like you don't want anything to happen to your children. Like,
yes, I get that too.
Like just the pressure probably that I put on myself to just like everything has to be in my control. Yeah. Like in my control. Like you want them to turn out to be great men. Mm-hmm. Like I don't feel like I'm raising boys. Like my goal, my priority is to raise young men. Yeah. So like one thing we do right now is like we speak over them. Like when I take the boys to school, we have this thing. I pray with them. I have this question. I ask Bryce. He's too young right now to like have that type of conversation.
Aiden doesn't care.
Yeah, Aiden be like,
be honest.
I don't like you right now.
Aiden's like, worship? Don't like it.
Get out my
face.
Is this? Give me some fruit snacks now. Juice. Hurry up. Right now. But like
he's going through some things.
He is going. Y'all pray for Aiden, please. But with like Bryce, this thing that we do is like I'll ask him like, remember who you are. Like, who are you? And he's like, I'm a leader. Yeah. And like then we list off like, what does a leader do? Like, who is a leader? A leader is kind. A leader is someone who listens. A leader, someone so. You're like, he's only 5. Yeah, he's only 5, but I'm training him up in the way that he should go. Yeah. So when you have that passion, you have that desire to see your children be all that God has made them to be. A part of the thing that I'm learning as a father is that God is a better father than I am. Yep. And although I want the very best for them and I'm gonna do my part, at the end of the day, like once they get older, they're still gonna have to make their own decisions. Now, like in this stage of our parenting, lives, it's cool because we get to be like the instructor, we get to be the teacher. Yeah. Eventually, like how it is with me and my dad now, like he's like my advisor. Yep. But I don't want to teach from a place of fear, and that's something I'm working through. Just like there's gonna be some days where you don't get it right. There's gonna be some days where like, again, they're 5 and they're 2. So like yelling at them is not, again, we talked about communication in one episode with marriage. I think I'm learning how to communicate with my children because in Black families, it ain't like, that's not something that we've like, I think fully have processed. It's more so just like, watch your tone, who you talking to, sit down somewhere. You know what I'm saying? Like, I said what I said. Right. Stop that crying. And that just is something that's been repeated in our culture. But just because it's been repeated does not mean that it's healthy. Right. So it's like, it's not that you're trying to be your child's friend. It's you trying to understand that your child is a human being who has emotions and feelings. Right. And every time your child does something, one, they're a child. So everything that they do doesn't deserve a whooping. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, and threatening your children that you're going to whoop them every time only insinuates fear, incites fear. So it's like, that's something like that I'm learning. Not saying that my parents whooped me like that, like 24. It's not like that. Yeah. But just, it's I don't want my boys to be like afraid of me in a sense of like being fearful, because I think too, like our relationship with like our parents normally, and this isn't the totality, but a lot of times the way you see like your natural parent sometimes is how you'll see God. And I want to be reminded that like God is patient with me. Yep. If God threatened to whoop me every time I did something, I would have been done years ago. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like to have that patience, to have that grace, to have. There's been times where me and Bryce, I'm like, hey man, let's go upstairs in the office, and he's scared because he thinks he's gonna get in trouble, and we just sit down and let's have a conversation. Tell Daddy why you did this.
Right.
You know, because I want them to learn at a young age that hey, you can sit down with me and not be in fear.
Yeah.
But then you've also taught me too, and I'll throw it back to you. But you've also taught me too, like when you sit down with them, it's not always about how you. It's not always about what you say. It's about how you say it too. What's your body language? What's your tone?
Yeah.
So like, man, parenting, like it's a lot. It's a lot, and I'll get later in this conversation, I'll get into like just the pressure I think that men have, and maybe why men retreat and leave, their houses. But we can talk about that later on. But I think there's a pressure sometimes that as a man, we don't talk about enough. That and we don't talk about it with like other men.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's a whole no segue. What do you want to say?
No, that's really good. I think one thing that I'm also learning with parenthood is just like kids learn a lot from behavior. And I think one thing that we have been hearing a lot, like how you were saying, there's certain things that, Black parents just say out of culture, like just things that you've just grown up hearing as a child. And one of them is just like, don't do as, is do what I say. Like, don't, what is it?
Don't ask, like, not asking no questions, like, because I said so.
Don't do what I do. Do as I say. Yes, do as I say, not as I do.
Oh, I'm thinking about something else.
I was like, he didn't hear it.
Because I said so.
Yes. But yeah, do as I say, not as I do. And I think that sometimes that is that's not healthy for kids, because children learn a lot from behavior, right? They learn from behavior. And so one thing that I was asking God for when it comes to parenting my children is, God, how do I parent my children? Like I literally seek God as a mother, just how to do things in parenthood, because there's just certain things I don't know. There's been times where I'm like, I'm crying because I literally don't know how to discipline my children in a certain area. And so I'll go to God. And I remember one time God, when I went to God, he answered back to me and he was just like, your children are learning from what they're seeing. And so if you're like, okay, well, you can't watch TV for this amount of time and you need to do something else, where do you think they're getting that TV is something to entertain them and it's good for them? If they see mommy and daddy on their phones, then they think, oh, this is entertaining. This is something that I should do. So if you're wanting them to learn a certain behavior, show them a different behavior.
Yeah.
And that's something that as parents, we have a responsibility of doing. Some things aren't just on children just to learn. They're going to have to learn from you. And so if you want something to be different, you're going to have to literally be the catalyst for that behavior. So just being very careful of how you're responding to certain situations, what you're allowing them to see, praying over your kids. One thing that God has really put on my heart is just to pray over them. When I was joking about the different parenting styles that me and Austin have, one of the things that I think makes me less of like an anxious parent, I'm not a very anxious parent at all, but I think that one thing that helps me with that is prayer. I constantly pray over my kids. And I, like Austin was saying, when you understand that God loves your kids more than you could ever love them, and you know the love that you have for them, you're just like, you got it.
Yep.
You got it. So now there are times where I'm like, I could act a certain way. And I really learned that when Aiden got sick, because during COVID, he got sick. He was in the hospital for a while. And there were times where I'm just like, God, I really don't know what else to say. I don't even know if I can pray over the situation anymore, because I feel like I prayed so much, but, are you hearing me?
Yeah.
And I remember throughout the entire process, at the end of the 7 days, because he was in the hospital for 7 days, I was just like, I was always with you, and I will always be with your children. Like, I love them so much. If you understand the love that you have for your kids, you can't even fathom the love that I have for them.
Yeah.
And now I'm just like, okay, God, like, I'm going to put them in your hands. I can try to be the best mother that I can be, but I know that you are perfect. So as long as I am, you know, willing to allow you to be father over their lives, then they're going to be good. And there's certain times where I'll be like, you know, I feel like sometimes I live my life by one-liners. And I think that the reason that is because the older I get, the more I realize that I don't know a lot of things. But if I can just trust in one or two truths for my life, then I can be grounded in that. Like, I can have peace in that. So it's just, God is good and he is faithful. Those have been like the two things that I have just been living my life by for like the past 3 years. And that has helped me with my children, because when I don't know what to do, God is good and he is faithful. When I don't know what's going to happen with my kids, God is good and he is faithful.
Yeah.
Listen, because things can change instantly.
Yeah.
My boss asked me, like, why do you want a gratitude journal? And I was like, listen, because when the pandemic happened, I realized that anything can happen tomorrow. And it can change your whole entire life. So the things that you may have put your trust in, you really cannot. You got to find something bigger than you to put your trust in, and especially with your kids, because raising human beings,
Yeah, man.
raising men, raising Black men in America, just raising a human during this time. It's like, we think about the things that we struggle with now. I can't imagine what they're going to be struggling with 10 years from now.
Yeah.
We talking about social media. Listen, who knows?
AI.
Who knows? Yeah, artificial
Virtual reality.
intelligence. You know, they're talking about. We were watching a movie. It's called The Creator. While I was watching it, I think you kind of saw the ends of it. But in this AI world, it was like people who were really falling in love with artificial intelligence because they couldn't tell the difference anymore. And you think about the possibilities that are going to happen years from now that your children are going to have to experience. And even if you have not had children now, haven't had children yet, you think about the things that they're going to go through. So the only thing you really can do is put your trust in God and continue to grow. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's good. I wanted to talk about a little bit more about just that season that we went through with Aiden. Not to like harp on it long, but just like, man, one, I'm proud of us. Like we grew through that together.
Yeah.
And the thing that like I remember is like you just being so like adamant, like, one, we weren't gonna leave him, right? But just like you were just like, I'm not going anywhere. Like I'm like, you just went like in full like mother mode. Like it was just more so just like making sure that, you know, and that was for people to understand, like his breathing was just like really bad. So like when he tried to lay down, like he couldn't breathe. So we
had croup.
Yeah, croup, and he had like another virus at the same time.
Yeah, like 3 or 4 viruses on top of croup.
And so like sometimes when he was asleep, like you had to like sit up with him while he slept.
Yeah, but it's called stridor breathing. So they will literally stop breathing in their sleep. So you can't even lay them down because their airways, his airways were so small that if you laid him down horizontally, he would just stop breathing.
Yeah.
So I could only lay him up. But the scary part about it is he would like fall asleep, and whenever he would get in a good sleep, he would stop breathing. And he would be so like just fearful because he couldn't breathe. You think about, he's 6 months, so he's just trying to figure out what's going on, that he would literally like be trying to scratch the skin off of my face because he's just like trying to gasp for air. He doesn't know what's going on. He's just waking up like terrified because he can't breathe. And so you think about a little baby having to wake up like that every hour. So talking about sleep, no, I didn't get any sleep because I was very fearful. But I was also fearful of anybody else being there with him because he was attached to me at the time because he like exclusively breastfed.
Yeah.
So he didn't want to go to anybody else. But
yeah, that was just like, you know, just kind of reflecting on that, man. Like God was, like you said, like the faithfulness of God to like carry us through, because we've never been through that before.
Yeah.
And I think you speaking on like gratitude, I remember meeting like other parents when we were being like in the hospital, and they had like, we were ready to go after like 3 days.
Yeah.
They had been there for like 3 weeks. You know what I'm saying? So it's like,
Yeah.
it just made you like super grateful that like, you know, now, you know, looking back, it's like, man, I'm just thankful that like my children are healthy.
Yeah.
Like I'm thankful for like the things that we take for granted, like the small things.
Yeah.
Like it's so easy to take those for granted. But I just wanted to kind of like just touch on that a little bit, because I was like, man, I'm really proud of us, like how we parented together through that. And during that time, like I was still pastoring the church.
Right.
You know,
That was hard.
All
right. You got me emotional.
Yeah, it was just like,
yeah, that was hard.
That was a hard season, but like God carried us through.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember one night, man, just like holding Aiden in the room, and just like, you know, sometimes like in the church, people just pray to God about it. Just pray. But like, what happens when you're praying and like it seems like God's not answering? And I remember just like holding him in the room one night and just like crying, because it's just like, as a dad, there was nothing that I could do
but to trust God.
Mm-hmm. Like, it didn't matter how much money I had. Mm-hmm. It didn't matter how gifted I was. It didn't matter how long I had been a dad. Like, you know, just
if you were a pastor of a church,
like your best sermon, none of that crap mattered. What mattered was that God was still like fighting for us, and he, you know, I might get emotional too, but it's just like, I think about like that's things that you don't think about before you become a parent. Like, you know, you look at the Instagram and the Facebook pictures, like, oh, happy family, and you know, you don't understand, like, there's gonna come a lot with children that you just don't know, and seasons that are gonna come that just like, God, they're like, what in the hell is this? Like, where this had to come from hell, because this is crazy, you know, and some things, you know, that's a whole different conversation. But I believe that like some things God allows to develop us, and to teach us, and to strengthen us as well. So yeah, I'm thankful how he carried us through that season. What are, to kind of lighten the conversation, what are some of your favorite things about being a mom?
Oh my gosh. Well, now I remember when I first decided to, in my mind, when I first had made the decision, I was like, listen, we're going to have a second child, was when I took Bryce to a playground and none of the kids wanted to play with him.
Bryce would be so hurt too.
He was so hurt. I think he was like around 1, and I saw these 2 little kids. It was a little girl and a boy, and they were playing with each other, and they were siblings, and they were just doing everything together. And I was like, Bryce, I'm gonna make you a best friend, and he's gonna play with you. And I was like, we're having another child. I went home. I was like, babe, we got to have him and a best friend, because nobody wouldn't play with him today at the playground. Like, we have to have him a little best friend. And I'm just so thankful, and it brings so much joy to my heart to see them play together. Like, they fight a lot. Don't get me wrong. They fight a lot. I mean, they be fighting over everything.
Over the dumbest things.
If one of them sits in a seat beside me and the other one is on the other side of the table, Aiden is like, Bryce, please move all your stuff. I'm sitting beside my mom, and we gonna fight about it.
Jackie and Gerard, serious. I'm sorry, Jackie and Gerard.
Yes. He's saying he's sorry because he also has a little brother, so they definitely understand what it feels like.
Yeah, I used to be like, stop looking at me.
And they do the same thing.
We used to be arguing, and now they do the same thing. It's like, you read what you sow.
Yeah, seeing them play together, seeing their personalities. They have completely different personalities. Bryce is an extrovert. He loves people.
Bryce is me.
Yes, he is. But Aiden does not fool with people like that. Like,
Brea.
He's just like, I just love my mommy, and we're good. If I get to stay next to her, then we're good.
And if I have some food.
I'm good.
That's Brea Smith.
I cannot. First of all, I fool with people.
Do you?
I do. You're an extrovert though. I'm like an extroverted and introverted extrovert a little bit. Because I can talk to people, but I have a battery. So I might be at a high when I get around people at a certain point, and then my levels start going down. Around hour 2, I'm like, it's time to go home. Like,
Meanwhile,
let's wrap this up.
I be over here on the extendo.
Austin, I'm just
Stay
like,
charged. Now I will say, like I have to have after a certain like if I have a lot of interaction, like I need like a day where I can just like be me, especially because like my job.
we're talking about the kids.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going, but we were just talking. I was just saying, like, my job and the work I do, like, I'm always talking to people.
Yeah, so you need that time to recharge.
I need time to recharge.
Yeah.
But what else? What else do you enjoy about being a mom?
And I just love like the nurturing side of mothering. Like Austin, he talks about me sometimes because he'll be disciplining them, and then I'm like, come get a hug.
Mother Goose.
Yeah,
I know you just drew on the wall. Come here. Let me.
That's not what I do.
Let me hug you. I know you just put poop on the couch.
That's
Come
not
here.
true.
Come here. It's okay. It's not true.
That is not true. That's not how it is. That's not how it is.
Tell the people how it is.
No, but I'm just yes. Yeah.
It is because that's how it is.
No, I'm just a mother in that way. I am a nurturer, and I love that role. I love being a nurturer,
and that's okay. And I'm playing with you, but
yeah.
All jokes aside, like I think understanding like our roles as parents are different too.
Yeah. And being okay with that, like,
and being okay with that, and not saying like I'm not a nurturer at all. I think there's things that you teach me to get better with. Yeah. So yeah.
And vice versa.
Yeah.
Because sometimes Aiden deserves to sit in timeout, or he deserves a little pop. I mean,
because he Lord, like I said, y'all got to pray for Aiden for Aiden.
We're not gonna make Aiden seem like he is Chucky. He is wise and kind and loving.
Chucky's insane.
He is loved by God.
He is loved.
He is blessed. And you know what? Another thing is, do not call your kids bad, because they are not bad. They are blessed. Whenever I may want to say something, I'm like, you know what? I am not going to define you by what you're doing. You are blessed.
I remember we went somewhere one time.
Oh, no, you remember? What are you talking about?
This guy got in the car. He was like, he's spawn of Satan. He called his
oh, yeah. I was like, what?
I was like, bro.
How are you going to call your child the spawn of Satan? That is not okay. Do not speak that over him.
I was like, they came from you. So that make you... Bro, I was so weak because he was like my man was like 38 hot.
He was upset. But I'm the opposite. If I'm mad at my kids, like Austin can tell you, he was upstairs one day and I was so upset with him. But sometimes I think about everything from a spiritual side. So if they're acting out of character, I would just be like, listen, Jesus loves you, okay? You are wise, okay? You are a child of God. You are set apart. You are a great listener. They may not be listening very well at all, but I will tell them, listen, I'm going to speak everything good over you, because what you're not going to do,
And then one time you did that and Aiden looked at you and was like, no.
Because I told you, he's going through a phase. Yeah, I tell my best friend all the time, I'm like, he's going through a phase. Sometimes your kids go through phases, but guess what? It ain't always going to be like this.
It won't. And to that point, that's why I think
you're loving.
You have to, I'm learning like you have to enjoy where we are right now.
Yeah, and their phases that they're in.
Yeah, because I won't be able to always pick them up.
Yeah.
Like Bryce is already super like tall for his age. And, just the fact that like I won't be able to pick him up always. Like, so like enjoying, I think that's like, when I think about what's my favorite things about being a dad, I truly enjoy like leading my family. Like it's not like the cliche thing. Like I enjoy, like, I was talking with my boys, or he had, shout out my boy Kurt. He had commented on one of your posts, and he was like, "You and that husband father bag heavy." I was like, "That duffel's heavy," and I take pride in that, because it's just like, I was talking about earlier the pressure that men go through. Yeah. When it comes to just being men, but then also being like fathers. Yeah. And sometimes men feel that pressure because they didn't have that example. thank God I had that example. But even with having a great example of my father, I had both of my parents in my life. I still had to like parent my children in a way that like authentically to who God's made me to be.
Yeah.
You know, so I take like I truly take pride in like like I'm in my bag, like I'm in my dad bag. Like I want to be a great dad. I want to be, everything that God's called me to be. But when it comes to just like having fun with like my boys, I enjoy like when we like wrestle, like when we do like Avengers, like we play. I enjoy having experiences with them. I enjoy picking them up and the joy that they have when they like hug me around the neck.
Yeah.
We have this thing where we sit on the couch and like we'll be in a corner and like Bryce will come and like bring the blanket, and then Aiden does this thing now where he like get his blanket, he'll sit on the other side of me, and we just be sitting on the couch together.
Yeah.
Like I love that. I love that my boys love being around me. I love that they feel safe around me.
Yeah.
And that's important to me. Yeah. That's important to me. So yeah, what would you have when it comes to advice for? Yeah, I know.
Okay.
But when it comes to advice for like new parents, let's do this. We can make this either advice for new parents or encouragement for current parents. You can kind of mix it in both, but kind of just like encourage some ladies who need to hear some like empowerment, and then I'll do the same for the guys, and then that's how we'll end the plane.
I think it's just something that I said at the beginning that has really helped me, and that's just like not comparing your journey as a mother to anybody, whether that's like, the postpartum phase where you just had your baby and you're trying to figure out, okay, well, how do I get my body back? And you're comparing yourself to other people and their physical appearance. Or if it's just like, mothering and you're like, I don't have time to do certain things that I see other mothers doing. It's okay. Give yourself grace. Allow God to lead you in motherhood. Allow God to lead you in every aspect of your life. But when it comes to your children, allow God to lead you when it comes to mothering. Like, don't be afraid to pray and ask God for help and direction when it comes to anything and, navigating in your role as a mother. That has truly helped me. I feel like I say the same thing when it comes to advice that I give for other aspects, but that's just truly something that's truly helped me is just leaning on God. Like,
yeah. That's good. I think for me would be two things, to your point. Like, fellas, give yourself grace. Like, give yourself grace, and give yourself grace because you're doing the work. For the guys who have committed to being like good dads and being fathers and being present, I would even say this, whether you are married or not, that the fact that you are still committed to like being a dad and being present in your child's life, that's powerful. So, give yourself grace, and you're doing it. Like sometimes, men need to hear that you're doing better than what you think you're doing. So from another brother, you're doing better than what you think you're doing, Amen. For those who haven't had the blueprint, for those who have had a blueprint, you're still doing better than what you think you're doing. So keep going, keep growing, keep leading. That'd be my advice. So
I love it.
Cool.
Thank you guys so much for watching another episode of the Growing in Love podcast. And we hope that you like, you comment, you subscribe, all the things if you want to continue to watch videos like this. Thank you so much for the support that you have given us. And we will see you next time.
Peace.